Welcome, Ultraers and Switchy Sisters alike, to episode 18 of the weekly episodic gaming-adjacent live-stream podcast show. This is Switch 2 Ultra, for the first time ever on a Wednesday night, for a very special reason. But first off, welcome to the Switch 2 Ultra family. I'm your co-parent, BH Ultra.
And I am your co-parent, Switchy.
A lot has happened since we last spoke live on the air. Sure, there was a momentous EVO weekend that I watched 26 hours of. Sure, there was a Mario Kart Worlds update that supposedly fixed the online complaints. Sure, they announced a SpongeBob game that we heard about on several podcasts for some reason. Sure, there's an apparent image leak floating around of what Nintendo may be doing for Mario's birthday. Sure, there was an entire Nintendo Direct like we ended the previous live podcast on the inkling of. But more importantly, above all else, in a moment that will be remembered for generations now, Nintendo re-released Mario Paint on the Nintendo Switch Online service with Joy-Con mouse support, and then a bunch of people online started playing it. And I could think of no better person to discuss the spirit of creativity with than the man that flashes in my head really quickly whenever I think of Mario Paint. Today we are joined by the guy who taught me a bunch of bad words in 2009. This is Brentalfloss.
Hello, my child. Hello, it is me,
Hi,
the sensei of profanity, your favorite Smash trophy, Brentalfloss. Hi.
I'm sure
Thanks
you
for
get that a
having me.
lot. Oh, of course. Thanks for being on, honestly.
No, I mean, no problem. It was exciting to be asked. I don't know. I'll tell you, I do not know about all the topics, but I have tried to look into some of them to keep up. So I'm psyched to be here.
Oh, of course. Well, don't worry. I doubt this is going to be a very news-centric week. Honestly, it goes two ways. Either I write everything down in my notes and I'm like, okay, we need to cover all these points, or we really focus on one conversation point, and that just kind of takes us through the hour. And there's one commonality or phenomenon that keeps coming up between me and Switchy specifically because of how we grew up on the internet, is it seems there's this sort of cycle of nostalgia where whoever is the common voice or most popular creators at the time that were making videos about games they were nostalgic for as kids, then there are, not always, but sometimes, formative experiences, kids watching those videos, so what the adults talking about the games that they're nostalgic for sort of trickled down, that I feel like we have a very intimate knowledge of Super Nintendo games solely because of YouTube, even though neither of us particularly grew up with either of those games.
Yeah. I didn't own an N64 until I kind of decided to start collecting when I was like in middle school.
That was my first
console was the Wii.
Ooh, okay.
So
sorry, go on.
Well, the joke I always make, and I might be going a little bit ahead, is that as a kid watching a lot of YouTubers, particularly millennial YouTubers, frankly, I kind of inherited a certain nostalgia or affinity for games that I didn't grow up with. Because a lot of these like early creators, especially the ones that talked about Nintendo games, would bring up games that were pretty big on the NES, SNES, and even the N64. And I've always found it funny how there are opinions I had as a kid on games that I hadn't even played. So, for example, is the fact that I was very opinionated about Rareware being purchased by Microsoft, despite the fact that I didn't play any of those games as a kid until I was a teenager. And it's like I think of like you as an example of one of them, along with several other kind of Nintendo centered and other video games in general. Like a lot of those creators that I watched as a kid, I kind of learned about a lot of stuff I didn't grow up with because of. If that makes sense. I'm kind of tripping up a little bit.
But. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, like I was a kid who, for whatever reason, growing up like little kid in the 80s, slightly less little kid in the 90s, I loved oldies, which at the time was 50s, 60s, 70s music. I super loved the Beatles. Though I tried to make sure my parents didn't think I thought they were cool, I still listened to their record collection after school before they got home. So the whole idea of like affinity for things like a little bit before your time, I totally get that. It's kind of wild for me to now be in a position as a 41-year-old recovering YouTuber to be a person who introduced a younger generation to the elements of my childhood. But looking back, it's like I was inadvertently part of the home arcade revolution, part of video games back when they changed really fast.
Yes.
Wildly year to year in technology and style and what was possible. So it's really cool to know that I, again, inadvertently, but kind of like shared something of my own life that stuck with y'all. That's great.
In a way,
Yeah.
you're sort of like the fifth Beatle, one would say.
I don't know who one would be, but I would be fine to be referred to in that way, especially if I'm owed royalties.
Right.
Hit me.
Peter
Yeah.
Jackson's got to start CGing you into all those documentaries. I was there the whole time. And now,
I'm the Jabba the Hutt in New Hope
yeah,
of the Beatles.
just a step over your tail.
Yes.
There's, we hope to do the same thing. I'm sure you were the same way at the time, that like I don't love censoring myself, so I don't often do it. And I like to think that everyone who watches me or in my community, or rather in my chat, or just like anyone involved, realize like, oh no, we're all like the same person. We're all the same age. But there are a lot of children that watch YouTube and occasionally pick up on a lot of things. And I feel like we're part of this crop of YouTubers that also talk about their childhood or childhood shows a lot. So I like to think that that's sort of happening again, where there's going to be a ton of Zoomers, or Gen Alpha, I guess, that are growing up with YouTube videos now and are going to be really nostalgic for Wii Sports, or that's really the only Wii game people ever talk about. Lego Star Wars, I guess, like games that came out in the 2000s. But also, I feel like a ton of things that were created in the specifically 2000s and 2010s, even like late 90s, haven't really ended. Like,
right.
yeah.
Well, I think that nostalgia bait and the nostalgia industry has really, really ramped up. I mean, I guess there was some version of that before the 90s, like, but dude, just the fact that, like, I mean, I'm a Trekkie, and the fact that they keep on coming out with like 12-inch figurines of increasingly peripheral characters from like 50-year-old Star Trek properties. It's like, yeah, the nostalgia industry, the Funko Pop, whatever that thing is, has only gotten more intense. And you know what's crazy? It goes both directions. I saw a musical in New York a few months ago that was it was like an unauthorized Fairly Odd Parents musical, and I like was aware of that show, but it was a little bit after my time. The thing is, in the show, you got to vote on which which aughts or early 2010s Cartoon Network shows the characters went to. So like I was getting schooled on Ed, and Eddie. I was getting schooled on Johnny Test. And like I didn't know about those shows. They were after my time. I think people making content to share their childhoods, it's like there are avenues that there weren't when I was a kid for people to share those in both directions. And so I left that show going, hey, I think I understand a little bit more now about why those shows are so beloved. It's a cool time in that way. And many times not, but in that way, yes.
I hope that does happen in the future. I fear sometimes that where I'm at right now, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever the next thing is, I'll accept it. I'm not going to be like my parents and be like, oh, that new thing. Okay, yeah. And then sometimes that sneaks through a little bit where I hear about something popular with like very young children. I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. And then I feel a little bit of like my parents seeping through. It's like, wait, no, hold on. I need to be accepting of what the new thing is so I don't get left behind in it.
Yes, the difference is that when you were a kid, it was easy to think that adults weren't cool because they didn't understand what was cool. And now that I'm 41, I look at younger people and I go, why the fudge would I care what you think is cool? You are like a child. I would rather misuse your slang and make you think, I don't know, to mess with you than actually try to learn what you think is cool. At the same time, some of the stuff kids do, it's like, I think a lot of my friends are parents. You can like end up at your friend's house and end up watching kids programming with your friends. And suddenly it's like, you know what? Peppa Pig. All right. Yeah. I can take this in. All right. I get it.
I can get into this. I see the appeal.
Yeah.
That does happen sometimes with friends with very little siblings. Have you ever, I'm sure you're very close with your friends and now they all have families of their own. Have you ever tried to introduce this young generation of kids and be like, hey, you guys ever hear of this game, and try to put them onto something? Do they ever react positively or negatively to anything like that?
I mean, for me, it's more about ending up playing games in the franchises that have been going back now 20, 30, 40 years.
Right.
My best friend's kids are very into Zelda. They're very into Pokemon. And so we can talk about where the series has come from. And like, I haven't so much showed them old stuff because like I think I got burned one time in a way that is just so sad it was like 20. I forget when Cuphead came out, but my best friend's kid.
2016 or so, 2017 maybe.
Yeah, something like that. So my best friend's kid at the time was like, I don't know, 10 or tween or somewhere in there. And he sees me playing Cuphead and he goes, "Why does it look so crappy?" And I was like, "Child, do you understand? Do you understand the achievement? And I'm like tearing what's left of my hair out. Like, do you have any idea the achievement of, no, you don't. You don't. Because to you, this is just like, this is old time. You don't understand why this is so awesome." And so I think maybe that moment that I had made me not want to show them like the vastly less cool looking Zelda 1, you know, Mega Man 2.
It's
hard in general to like show someone something and kind of go out on a limb on that way. Like there's always the joke about, you know, playing a song you like for a friend of yours and they just like don't really react to it and how awkward that can be.
It's like a 3-minute song and you're like a minute into it and they're not messing with it and you're just like,
it gets good later. It gets good. Yeah,
I promise.
Anytime I like a thing on the internet, particularly like an Instagram series or somebody on like a TikTok or YouTube Shorts, I'll want to share it with my girlfriend, and one will come on and I'll go, "Oh, I really like this thing. You should watch it. Will you watch it with me?" And it's invariably the worst one I've ever seen. Makes me totally question why I ever liked it, and I feel like I just look like an absolute asshole. Like, I'm sorry I showed you that. Let me see if I can find a better one. And the better ones are all just disappeared somehow. Michigan J Frog, they were never there.
Shout out. I feel like specifically with games here is, I mean, you said there's a lot of obviously Nintendo characters. Well, you know, some of them, not withstanding the Star Foxes or whatnot, have continued to support those series moving forward. But for the videos that we watch in very formative years and a lot of videos that you are part of, there are, like Switchy said, series in the 2000s like Banjo-Kazooie and Mega Man that were ostensibly on ice at the time, that I feel like so much of the knowledge I have of those was sort of just passed down. People talking about how cool those games were. And I think in the decade after, there's sort of been a nostalgia movement, and Mega Man has at least had collections. I don't know where they stand with new games right now. But yeah, Banjo is one that's very much been on ice, and that's why when it was announced for Smash Bros, I was like, oh, this is the guy that I've basically known about my entire life, more or less.
I've never played the game, but I've watched a hell of a lot of YouTube videos.
I played the first one at the
I have played the game now, by the way. No, Banjo-Kazooie is probably one of my favorites.
Just in case you wanted to steal gaming valor. I try to play more DK64 leading up to Bonanza, and some games you can really go back to and be like, no, this stands the test of time still. And sometimes there's things that like don't age super well. It's like, you know what? It's a measure of the time. I think it is still standing, and I think it's beautiful. But DK64 is one that really just makes you want to rip your hair out with how monotonous collecting so many things
is. Yeah, it's tough, you know, like there are games I have a strange nostalgia for, even though I didn't play them. Like by the time I got to Castlevania, I was just like, man, this is clunky as hell. I was like way into my 20s. And I was like, this must have seemed cool when it came out, but like, I can't even play this. Like even my Castlevania 2 video was more based on the concept of that game and me watching gameplay. But like, I didn't want to play it. I didn't want to like, now I think that was one of like 2 or 3 videos I ever made, music videos of a game that I didn't like substantially play. I think it was that, Little Nemo, and like, and Majora's Mask. All the other ones I substantially played.
Okay.
But yeah, like, and that was kind of my deal with Ocarina as well. Like, I didn't really play it when it came out.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. I was holding my breath about Ocarina.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like,
I remember the day that video came out. Oh, that was such a big thing for me. I remember watching
video, so people were divided.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
We had never been more divided as a country. It was
never, not even close, especially not today. I mean, the thing is, my character in that video, which it's hard to parse out because he's a lot like me, but the sort of version of Brentalfloss in that video really hates Ocarina. I don't hate it. I just kind of like play it and go, man, this would have been a lot better if I'd really like given myself over to this when I was 13. But like when you go back, especially since I played the 64 version, not the 3DS, the quality of life issues, the kind of overall clunk of it, it just like, I was sitting here like, man, I think by then, I didn't have Breath of the Wild by then, but the truth is like, it just didn't do it for me. And I think that I'm always curious to know which games hold, I mean, stand the test of time, not just for people that are returning to them 20 years later, like I have done this week with Mario Paint, but for people that are going back and trying to enjoy them, even though they weren't alive around that time. The games that just seem like a pain in the ass because they're primitive versus the ones that, for whatever reason, like Tetris. Like Tetris is it just absolutely transcends any kind of graphical limitations, any kind of audio limitations. Tetris is Tetris, and it will hook you the way it hooked people in the 80s if you have any kind of brain to enjoy Tetris. But something like, again, Castlevania or half of the NES library these days is just like not even worth trying. I mean, like I get on the Nintendo Switch Online NES library sometimes when I got nothing better to do, and I'll like put 5 minutes into a game and I'll just be like, this is just not worth it, man. This is just like rough, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I think the NES is my cutoff. That like I could play games from the NES and still be like, you know what, this is still I'm still having a moment here. Like I'm enjoying it as a game, not as just like a piece of history. But then you go back a little bit more and you play like Atari 2600 games, and I'm like, I don't think a single one of these is fun. Like maybe Pitfall, but all of them, I think people were just getting by at the time. Like it's so many.
Well,
Yeah,
at that point, it was just like, well, sorry, go ahead.
Well, we're about to make the exact same point. See,
say it at the exact same time.
I imagine if I
are getting a divorce.
Oh, what?
Sorry.
If I saw like Adventure, in the early 80s, I would have been blown away. I'm sure.
Right.
The idea, but obviously, like the pizzazz of the Atari 2600's graphics are obviously not super big nowadays, and I'm the kind of guy, at least with the NES, there are a lot of games I think I can enjoy in an antiquated sense where it's interesting to kind of see these really old games. I think I can turn that part of my brain off for SNES games. I think that's when most games from that era still age pretty well. Depends. What I find funny is I think after that, around like the early aughts, games kind of get a lot more kind of clunky. I think just because there's a certain like theatric sense to them that sometimes makes games slower. So for example, I bring up like Xenosaga and how that game is really slow for me. I love the story. I was not really big on the gameplay because each like attack is like 30 seconds long and it just makes everything take forever. And ironically, you don't have that problem with like some of the really early like NES and SNES RPGs.
Oh, absolutely, man. Like I love Final Fantasy IX, but what I could not believe about all the ports that happened since it came out, including HD, maybe they're not HD remasters, but at least they are, like basically a 4K version in 60 frames per second. But Final Fantasy IX still has something like, I swear to God, it's like a 20 to 25 second amount of time at the beginning of every battle before you can battle. And it's like, how was that built in? That's horrible. Whereas you pop in Mario, you press start, there you are.
Yeah.
But as far as Atari, I'm actually with you. Even though that was like only one generation before me, I think the difference is this. On Atari, a lot of times it was like you could make a game called Adventure because it was literally the first time somebody had really, or one of the first times somebody had been like, what if there was a game about an adventure? Oh, what's this game called? Soccer. Oh, what's this game called? Tennis. They were like figuring out how you could gamify a thing people knew about. Whereas by the time you get to the NES, it's like, what if you're a guy running around and you're in high school and you're beating up different gangs on different turfs and you have a lead pipe and then you have a wooden stick? It's like an entirely different, exponentially more complex level of gameplay. And Atari just, the music is barely music. It's an entirely different thing. So I actually am with you. I don't really feel the need to touch anything before the NES.
I think I do make exceptions for the Atari specifically because I have on occasion had fun where you just pop it in. It's like, all right, let's play combat or like some kind of multiplayer game. But I think that just comes with the innate fun of playing with people on a couch. And we've run into that recently, and I think Nintendo does a lot as well with the Switch era, the Switch 2 era, with the release of your Nintendo Switch Sports or your Mario Parties or your Mario Sports games that are series that people really like but seem to be very delicate about and protective. And whenever there's a new one, it's like, oh, this one isn't as good as the one I played on the GameCube. And they're remembering, or what they believe is happening is they're remembering that the previous game was better than this new soccer game. Like, oh, my GameCube soccer game is better than the Switch soccer game. But I feel like more often than not, what they're actually remembering is playing it together, like with their siblings or friends on a couch or whatever. I think any game, even like the worst ones, you could still have fun with it in a group setting. And a lot of those games just simply do not translate to playing by yourself.
True.
And I see that a lot with Wii Sports from the Wii era. And I had a lot of fun with Wii Sports. I imagine everyone did with Wii Sports, but do not ever load up the game by yourself. You know, like, you know what? I want to play a video game tonight. I'm going to load up some Wii Sports. They're still fun to be had, but there are some that solely exist within the party setting.
Yeah, I agree. We actually, so as you may know, I am the co-creator of a Jackbox-like series of games called Use Your Words, and a lot of people after the first one asked us, could we make a one-player mode? But it's like a minimum 3-player party game, like Jackbox. And we thought about it, and we might do it one day, but it's just like you say, we could work really hard to make it a simulation of playing the game with other people. Even like create characters that talk through the game and have a specific writing style. But it's never going to be the same as the anything could happenness and the, camaraderie of just friends sitting around, even if only one person is playing with other people around them, like we did with the first Resident Evil after school. Go and like turn the lights off right after school, and only one of us is playing Resident Evil, but the rest of us are all kind of like sitting there like freaking out, getting scared, even though it looks like absolute balls today. Like you can't get a GIF to look as bad as that game looked on a CRT TV, but it was still, just the experience. And then like when I go back and play Resident Evil 1, as you say, it's like, woof, what is this? This is nothing like I remember.
Mm-hmm. I think that some games that look really bad, though, where you can almost not make out what's happening on the screen, sort of make them a little scarier. And I've noticed that with getting specific films on tape. Like, Alien is a good example. I think someone made a video about this in the past. That there are horror movies or horror games that or even like old YouTube videos that were in 240p of like, oh, a Bigfoot caught on tape, a real ghost on film. That I think part of the horror is lent to the low quality of it, that you see pixels and blurriness and you could be like, oh, that's kind of a face. It's like when you fall asleep in a room and there's a jacket on a chair. It's like, oh, that's a guy. There's like some kind of boogeyman.
Oh, that happened to me like for real, like last month. Like there was a perfect silhouette of a person in a room I was sleeping in, and I thought like there was a guy who broke into the house for a second until I realized it was just kind of a shirt and like a sheet that looked like a head or something like that.
It was one of my mannequins. I forgot about that.
We didn't buy a clown statue. Oh my God. No, I hear you.
Of course. The main impetus of this was the re-release of Mario Paint on the Nintendo Switch Online service with that Switch 2 mouse capability. You say you've been playing Mario Paint, so you did get the Switch 2, the Nintendo Switch 2?
I did, yes. I had a hard time finding a Switch 1 that first year it came out, and I went, well, this is going to be a splurge, but you know what? I've literally even made a fairly popular song about not buying a console at launch, so this was like an absolute moment of hypocrisy, but I was like, you know what? I just want it. I want to be able to have it when I'm ready to play it. I don't want to like go, oh, there's a totally system selling game coming out, and I have to wait 3 months to see if I can get it, like if I can be the first person to order it on Target when they put 5 more in stock. So I was like, fine, I'll grab it. So yes, I have the Switch 2 and Mario Kart World.
Ooh, well, how have you been feeling about Mario Kart World?
The first couple hours I was like, this is dog shit. This is not Mario Kart.
They've jumped the shark.
This. Yeah, I really did feel that way, and then I realized, I really played a lot of Mario Kart 8, and I played a lot of Mario Kart 7, which I think 7 and 8 are the 2 most alike Mario Kart games. 8 to me just feels like Super HD 7. I learned to drift perfectly. I was good enough to like. I didn't ever really compete seriously, but like, typically friends and normies around me could not beat me. I played a lot. I played online. I got the deluxe. And so, of course, this was initially going to hit me weird because it is different. But the thing is, after this long, they had to take a big swing. If they just made Mario Kart 8 but like slightly better graphics and new courses, there would be something really anticlimactic about it. The fact that they found a way to make it one kind of like all-encompassing map that you can not walk around, you know what I mean? You can explore, but also it has all these courses in it. It's a big swing that sometimes I go, I don't know why you did it this way, but I'll tell you what, I keep playing it and I am enjoying it. I think that I don't even really, I've come to be fine with the lack of, especially before that update that happened this last week, the lack of 3-lap courses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, okay, if I want 3-lap courses, there's a game for that. It's called Every Other Freaking Mario Kart. But the one thing that I just find myself wishing is that so you go around the world map and you can hit these P-switches and do little missions, do little challenge things. They're fun. You can also find hidden question mark blocks. That's kind of fun. It kind of has like a very primitive, low-level Breath of the Wild vibe to it. But they don't give you anything. They literally give you a sticker. That sounds like a punchline. What do I get? A sticker? Literally, yes, Toad, you get a sticker. And it's like, I wish there was just some way you could level up something or unlock exclusive stuff you can only get from finding stuff on the world map. I wish you could drop pins. It's like the most unique thing about the game. They didn't quite, for me, lean into enough to make it really worth having made it a world, even though I think it's an amazing achievement that they did. There you go. Those are my thoughts.
That's a very succinct opinion. What were you going to say, Swig?
Thanks.
Well, yeah, no. I think one thing that specifically maybe I'm just not, maybe I haven't. It's kind of hard to keep track of what you've done as well, which is kind of frustrating. And it's like, because of that, I haven't really been that motivated to really do a lot of the free roam, just because what a lot of it is just aimlessly driving, kind of hoping you find, like an extra, like an extra challenge or P-switch or those question blocks or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I need like to know that I've kind of gotten everything I can, so I don't drive myself crazy.
Oh, I love a checklist.
Why don't they do it like this? Why don't they do it like the shrines in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom? Just, if I come up on a P-switch, put it on the map. If I've completed it, change the color on the map. If I can't beat it, but I want to come back to it, let me drop a pin. Y'all have done this, Nintendo. You have perfected this. And there's just something about it that's like, and the fact that free roam requires you to, like, free roam almost seems hidden. Like, you press, like, it's not like a category on the menu. You have to press start, which you might never see.
Right.
I don't know. It feels like simultaneously the entire unique element of the game in the series and something that maybe they know they didn't quite finish it. So they're like, yeah, there's also this, this free roam thing, I guess. Whatever, play it or not. I don't care.
It doesn't help either that there's sort of a disconnect between the maps, that the map you see as an image when you hit that map button, you can see, like, sort of, it looks more aesthetically pleasing. Like, it looks more like a painting. Oh, you can see all these worlds together. But you can't zoom in as close as you can with something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Except for the fact that you have a mini-map in the bottom right of the screen, but there's no way to expand that mini-map of, like, knowing exactly where you are in the city. You could see a picture and know, like, oh, I'm in the city. But that doesn't... I mean, think about being in any... If somebody calls you, it's like, oh, where are you? It's like, oh, I'm in New York. It's like, okay. It doesn't narrow it down at all. I have no clue where you are. I have no clue where I am.
Right. It feels like if they're willing to hear the players' cries and complaints and do an update pretty quickly, actually, I wonder if there's any hope that they will make the world part a little more like the open world games they have made that have done so well. Because, look, I'm down. I'm into it. I think that some of the courses are awesome. I think it's a beautiful game. There's so much interesting stuff to find, and like the fact that they've slightly expanded the like world building of Mario Kart. Like, I'm down. Just like I don't know, they just didn't put okay, they put the polish, but not the quality of life that would make it worth the average player enjoying the world part. I guess I'm just enjoying it because it's an $80 game, so I had better.
I gotta turn a profit on this thing.
Yeah.
I think it's really understated how much a waypoint or just a pin in a map can really change a game from like a 7 to an 8. And if we're talking about going back to what are deemed retro games, and a lot of them still holding up, after playing something like Metroid Dread, where you can put pins on the map, playing any other Metroid game, like notwithstanding remakes, it's like, God, everything would be so much easier if I could just put a pin in this map somehow. Like, that's such an easy... They're not going to update Metroid 1, but that's always my main thing. It's like, oh, if I could just... I have to physically take a picture on my phone and be like, okay, I was here. That's where I was.
Well, we wrote it down on paper as kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, we'd make I mean, actually, this isn't when I was a kid, but Slender... I don't know if y'all really remember Slender, like the first Slender Man
I
game.
was old enough for
course.
it. I assume Andrew was too.
Yeah.
I definitely, like a lot of people around 2011, 2012, had a phase with that. But I remember deciding, you know, with my friend that we were going to like try to make a map. We were going to try to be cartographers for the area in which you play Slender. And like, that was actually kind of a cool, fun experience, but only because the game was so good. And
Yes.
I think that if a game gets, and also it was pretty small, but when you get something as big as the Metroid games, it gets to the point where it's like, I don't know, to your point, they really did require you to remember a lot more or write down a lot more 30 years ago. And now, even sometimes to a game's detriment, it can kind of hold your hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do like to try, just like for a self-serving reason, to go more analog with a lot of things. I think last year when I played Alien Isolation, that one Alien first-person horror game, I did my best to draw a map in my notebook because I thought it would be more fun that way. And yeah, like that one has... I mean, for me specifically, I might be a special case because if I didn't have my phone for directions, I think I get lost in my own neighborhood. I am not perceptive when it comes to landmarks, but some video game maps are just that easy to be able to discern, like, okay, this is that radio tower. I know where that is in relation to the rest of me, but a map goes a long way to help.
Sure. I loved Alien Isolation, by the way. That was... had my own apartment at the time, and even though they tell, you know, growing up, my mom was always like, don't sit too close to the TV. Like a 55-inch TV these days, I guess, is kind of middle of the road, but I would take my office chair and like just get as close as I could to the TV, but as you know, while still seeing the edges, and play Alien Isolation in the dark on hard. Whoo! Heady times. Great game.
You were trying to brute force a VR experience with
Basically,
wall-to-wall
yeah.
screens.
Yes, pretty much.
It's interesting you bring up Slender because, I mean, those are technically games that came out when we were younger, but they're sort of that, when you grow up, and that sort of in between, like, edgy teen phase and lovable kid phase of those middle adolescents where you're trying to dip your toe in things that scare you or a little bit more upsetting, so you try and bridge the gap with things you understand, and that's where, like, gaming creepypastas come from. And they're like, oh,
Right.
like, I know Sonic, but what if Sonic was scary? That there was a trend from, specifically in the early 2010s, of these viral horror games or viral games to begin with. So earlier when you were referring to videos and projects you made and listed off the games that like, oh, I didn't really have an understanding of these games or I didn't play them. And you listed mostly games from the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, or the N64. That's a little surprising to me because I do think that there was that moment in the 2010s where everyone was sort of expected to talk about viral games, and I'm surprised that you were legitimately like a fan of those games, something like Slender, and then later you made the Undertale musical. Did you enjoy like both of those games? Were you already a fan of those games before people were really requesting them, or did it sort of show up on your feed and you're like, oh, people really like this game, I should check this out?
I mean, if you zoom out to most of my videos I've made where I've taken the time to write a song and make a whole music video, most of those are games that I played and And I would say like a majority, if not a big majority, are games that I liked. There were times where I went, oh, you know, I should get around to a Final Fantasy VII, which I liked okay, but kind of like one of those games I probably would have liked more when it first came out. Slender, I really liked, had a bunch of fun with it. My friend group played it until it was no longer scary, which took a long time. Undertale, this is an interesting story. There's this guy named the Living Tombstone.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So he and I are friendly, and we know each other from just conventions and mutual friends. But he was like, hey, we should do something with Undertale. So I played it as fast as I could because I was like, he's kind of a big deal. I think I should totally go through this. I actually played it so fast I didn't really even understand or appreciate the fact that like pacifism is kind of the concept of the game. Like I was just trying to get through it and take notes and finish it so I could write a song. And like I didn't really understand till very late in the game, oh, this is like saying something about the whole RPG concept, saying something about the world. What have I done? But I still wrote my song, which I felt like, even though I didn't do a pacifist run, I felt like my Papyrus song still captured something about the character. And I was like, I really want this to be kind of like klezmer and like to change tempos and get like really, really faster, and then slow down and then get faster and faster again. And, you know, I gave it to Living Tombstone, the draft, and like my little demo. And he was like, yeah, I don't think I can work with this. Like, I kind of do this other kind of music. And like at the time, I was mad because I was like, you know, it felt like a switcheroo. Mm-hmm. But looking back, he was totally right. I was trying to do a musical in a klezmer style, which if you don't know what klezmer means, it's kind of like when you think of like Hava Nagila, like kind of like a traditionally Jewish kind of like clarinets and violins and kind of coming from like like, you know, dipping a toe into a Romani, like when you hear like, anyway, the point being, yes. It was not his style at all. It would be asking him to just like, I may as well have been like, let's do a ragtime tune, buddy. So yeah, at the time I was annoyed, and looking back, it's like I did something so different from what he did. Why would I expect him to like change his whole style? But that's my story with Undertale. I respect it a lot. I haven't gone back to play it, but as far as viral games in the 2010s, like I watched a few streams of friends of mine playing those like walking simulators, you know, going down a staircase and something's going to jump out or whatever. But I don't know. I tried to not very often do a game, do something about a game because it was popular. Mm-hmm. Because so much of the stuff people loved from me was sharing stuff from my heart, regardless of when something came out. So, for instance, in 2020, when I decided to do a new season of videos, my multiple friends insisted that I do a Fall Guys because it would pop off. Yeah. And I did a Fall Guys video, and pop off. It did not. Is it possible it did not pop off because I didn't really give a huge crap about the game? It was fine. It was very repetitive. It was fun for a short period of time. I found it frustrating. I made a video. But, you know, the video that really went well in that season was my Luigi's Mansion 3, which was a game I actually liked, had a lot of fun with, thought was very funny and weird, and was part of a series of games that I've made videos for already. And there was something of my heart in that one. So basically, let us just say, whenever I have tried to do content just because I was chasing a trend or hopping onto something popular, those are almost never the things that end up rewarding me with views and with people, you know, really kind of remembering them and telling me about them. You know, telling me that it's their favorite. Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that passion really bleeds through. You can tell when someone is making something they really care about. And this is sort of a hard pivot I don't know, Switch, if you share the same opinion, but I definitely noticed with people, sort of the Nintendo tubers I was watching in the earlier 2000s, sort of make that shift into the big Steam game, or like you said, those horror games, those hallway simulators that were viral for a time being, and it upset me at the time. Now, as both an adult and a YouTuber, I'm like, okay, no, I get it. Like, I can't assume that every single one of these creators pivoted to games I don't personally like because they sold out to the man or whatever. But I remember wanting to see more stuff about obscure NES games, and then people were playing your Five Nights at Freddy's, your Bendy's in the Ink Machine, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, when you're coming up on YouTube, and the thing is, it's probably still this way with y'all. But for me, it was like an RPG. Getting more subscribers, getting more views was like leveling up in an RPG, and like there was no way to really make money off of it unless you were a YouTube
especially
partner.
back then.
Yeah, there was no Patreon. If they wouldn't accept you as a YouTube partner, back when you had to ask them to make money off of you.
it's a grovel.
But yeah, exactly. But like, I think my point is that
I just wanted the banner.
Want thumbnails.
I mean,
Oh, the
thing
custom
is,
thumbnails, yeah.
just like with an RPG, it's like if you're playing an RPG that's hard, and then suddenly you find an OP weapon, and it makes you almost feel like, am I having to try as hard to beat this boss as the game wanted me to? If somebody's chasing trends and it's working for their brand to get them where they need to get, I don't ever begrudge them that, even if it's harder for me to do that, because it's hard enough already to do YouTube stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there were people in the nerdcore scene alongside me who would, like, they would look at the Wikipedia page of a movie coming out, they would watch the trailers, and write a rap song based on that, so they could come out with the rap song the week the movie came out. And I would at the time be like, oh my God, this is so cynical, this is so lame. But like, I can't begrudge them trying to get their name out there and trying to do something that could allow people to pay attention to them for the stuff they really cared about. It's just not my style.
Yeah. Now all you gotta do is
Definitely.
call any movie woke, and then you immediately have followers there. Any movie, even before it comes out, be like, this is a woman in it. This is a woke movie. I don't think so.
The perfect crime. Just say it's woke. Perfect.
We can't discern what that means, but we'll just keep saying it about movies, and then it'll print money.
28 days later, woke. Yeah. This is going to go real nice.
I can't even imagine what the take on that would be. After seeing that film, I really don't know. People are never happy about anything.
No, I actually haven't seen it, but my girlfriend and I recently watched 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later.
Ooh.
And I gotta say, 28 Days has aged so poorly, and 28 Weeks was so just like mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but it's like we made it all the way through both of those just to like get ready for 28 years. And we've kind of been putting it off. It's like, I guess we'll get to it. Maybe when it's not $20 on digital, maybe when it's like we can rent it for $3. I don't know.
Oh,
But
dude.
anyway.
Earlier this year, I knew there was a new Jurassic World and a new Karate Kid coming out, and I like to watch movie series up until the newest one. And I had already done it earlier with Mission Impossible leading up to the new one. I'm like, oh man, all these movies are really good, notwithstanding like 2 or 1. I just start with 3. All the Mission Impossibles are good. Just forget the other ones. And I tried doing that, and I did do it with Karate Kid and Jurassic Park / World. And Mission Impossible, they just kept getting better and better. I'm like, oh, this is an exciting series. With Karate Kid and Jurassic Park, once you've got through the first of each of those, it's like, oh, okay, each of these have one good movie in their series. And now I have to sit through 3 movies that are...
It's like they have one good kitchen sponge that they get a good squeeze out of, and then the rest of the series is like, squeeze it harder!
If it came
Get
out
a
in
little more juice out!
If it came out in the 80s, that's a marketable IP now. That's going to be a franchise.
Pretty much. I gotta tell you, I haven't been interested in the Jurassic Worlds. I haven't watched one of them. That doesn't make me cool. I'm not being countercultural.
Oh,
it's just like, that's the thing. I haven't heard they were good, and I just go, I can go back and watch Jurassic Park anytime. It is a masterpiece. It feels like they time traveled CGI from later in the 90s back to then. I don't know how they did it. But that being said, yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, this is opening a whole nother can of worms, but it's like, I'm glad that they released Mario Paint exactly in its original form, because there are so many things where it's one thing to do a reboot, which can sometimes be cringe, but like with movies and whatnot and TV shows, doing like a many years later new season can be so sad. And like doing a many years later sequel can be so sad, because not only is everybody older, but they didn't even have HD when they made the last one. So it's like, look at the wrinkles. Look how terrible they look. Or even like, listen to how old their voices sound on the animated things, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, sometimes it's great, but most of the time it's just like kind of a freak show. It's kind of like, hey, come see what these people look like nowadays. Come see this fanfic of if they were older. It's so like, I'm always hesitant with that kind of thing. Somebody said in the chat, legacy sequels. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
They can be good sometimes, but they're always the kind of thing. I'm not going to almost ever be an early adopter. I'm going to wait and see what people say, because I don't necessarily want to waste my money and my time if it's going to be like mediocre and sad. Beetlejuice is a good example. Like, I was never a giant fan of the first one. I actually like the musical better than the movie.
I do too. That's awesome.
Dude, it is a very, the musical is a very special thing, because they like chopped up the movie and reconstituted it into a new shape that isn't the movie, but totally is the movie, and everyone is singing. It's kind of a wild thing they were able to do there.
Yeah.
You know,
there was this moment in 2015 where I think there was sort of a new crop of theater kids, and it happens every like 5 or so years. I'm sure the 5 years before that were like High School Musical, but in 2015, 2016, like Hamilton was getting really popular with animatics, and Steven Universe was airing its first season, and then the likes of like Undertale and other musicals. And I, as a teenager, got really, really into the Heathers musical, and that still like has a soft spot in my heart, that it's like my sentimental favorite musical. I've since moved to like, objectively, I think I like Little Shop more, but Heathers is like my sentimental favorite. And that and the movie are almost like not tonally different, but the characters serve an entirely different purpose. So much so that if like you're watching one of them, you have to watch the other one and explain like, okay, well, this is why this character isn't doing this. There's sort of an abusive character that pretends to care in the movie.
Yeah.
And in the musical, like it's very clear that he is obsessed. Like he's falling over for her, which really isn't implied or the case in the movie, that they become these completely different, unique experiences.
Yeah, it's kind of like, in a lot of cases, not all, but in a lot of cases, I think that a musical based on a movie has to be transformative in order to capture the movie. Because if you just tried to do the movie except they start singing, it would be like, why are they singing? Why they don't need to. If you change it all around, make it transformed into something else, but still capture the essence, it can almost capture the essence better. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no,
I think it has to be transmogrified in some form, or it's not going to play.
Yeah. And then there's equivalents like, and I do like this soundtrack. It's separate, split up, but something like the Mean Girls musical that has like song titles based on iconic moments, or whenever there's a funny moment from Mean Girls 2004, they stop in the middle of the song and they all chant that because it's like, oh, it's the moment from the movie you remember. And granted, something like The Producers and Death Becomes Her and Heathers all have that, but it still is its own story. But that one also tries to sort of make it more timely, like, oh, let's set it in the 2020s or the 2010s instead. And it really doesn't, like, I think Mean Girls is a story that really could be told at any opportunity, at any point in time. The idea of modernizing it doesn't really need to happen.
It's like add iPhones or whatever.
That's what they did. They added, there's like Snapchat's like an important part of the story. I'm like, what are we watching? What's happening?
Yeah, I think musicals seeming cutting edge, musicals seeming current, it's always a trap, because not only do musicals take forever to write, so whatever was current when you were on your second draft is always going to feel kind of lame and kind of, cringe by the time you get to Broadway. Like, I just think like making something dated makes it timeless. And I feel like I've applied that to a lot of my work, whether it's the Use Your Words games, which feel like the 1960s, or the Brentalfloss stuff, which was never trying to sound like current. It was always more musical theater or more old-timey, ragtimey jazz stuff. It was like never trying to be cutting edge. I think it's easier to date yourself when you try to be right now, particularly in musical theater. I wish they had made it a point to set it in 2004, because it would have only aged in a cool, like, vintage look back period piece way, making it more popular with the millennials and Gen Xers who were around at the time who will enjoy that part of it. That's my take.
No, of course. 100% agree. I forget what we got on this point. I feel like there was something else we were referring to. Oh, yeah, Mario Paint, which is sort of the framing device of the whole thing. That I do love when this happens, specifically on the internet, is I feel like everyone's very focused on new things, and it's sort of hard to encapsulate everyone into one thing. That's the main difference, although it is let's say potential like net improvement of just having everyone be more connected online, for better or for worse, that there are very specific fandoms. So an underground show or a movie or even like an album of like underground artists can develop its own scene and be very dedicated, and you could have that dedicated community, but then you step outside it and maybe no one's really heard of it. That there aren't really, well, I'll use Seinfeld as an example, a show that like everyone's watching regardless of where they fall, where it's like, oh yeah, no, we all watched that episode. Or like The Simpsons, like, oh, that was on last night and all of America was watching it. And Seinfeld's a good example because I remember in 2021 when they added it to Netflix, and my entire Twitter feed was people either rewatching it, rediscovering it, or like watching it for the first time. And it felt like that, like the show had just come out and people were posting about it as if it had come out. And it's interesting to see that with something like Mario Paint, is re-releasing it for the Switch 2 and then seeing my entire Twitter feed or TikTok feed of people making art, specifically making music in that game. And not only has the game aged so well, but seeing people jump into it. I think we've all been playing a little Mario Paint over the last week or so.
Yeah, it really has been a trip for me because, like, as it happens, I found a lost piece of Brent Black media, I think now a year and a half or 2 years ago, where I just had some old VHS tapes from my childhood digitized. And like they were like titled like Brent's Tape, you know, like I would like tape like an episode of The Simpsons, or I would tape some, you know, Super Nintendo gameplay. But I had played the crap out of Mario Paint for probably like on and off for like 5 years of my childhood. We didn't have a home computer, so like till I was like 16. So it was like the closest thing I had to that. And I had made literally every shot of a music video for the Beatles' Yellow Submarine. And it wasn't great, like by any real world adult standard. But at the age of like 12, I had made little backgrounds and animations, primitive as they were, for that whole, you know, for that whole song. But I didn't have the ability to edit it because I just never figured out how to edit it between two VCRs. Mm-hmm. So like 12-year-old me sent this message in a bottle to, at the time, 39 or 40-year-old me, and I finally got to edit it together with the Beatles music. And it was the just trippiest thing, like collaborating with my 12-year-old self, and having totally forgotten that I made that. So the stage was kind of set for me to get back into Mario Paint, but it's just like there's something really magical about it. Its limitations force you to be creative, and it's like me playing it now, I'm someone who, this is going to sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but I think a lot of YouTubers have had to do this. Like, I had to learn to edit music, arrange music, edit vocals, edit video, do all this stuff. And I look back and go, the seeds of that were all there. And even though, yeah, I literally wrote a song about that very thing in 2011, it's like when I'm just at an age where I have so much perspective to go, the problems I was solving to make cool stuff in Mario Paint are the exact same kind of creative problems I solve at 25, 30, 35, and now 40. Like, the stuff that it implanted in my head and that it allowed me to do has affected just so many parts of my life. And I truly shudder to think of the person I would be if I had not played easily 1,000 hours of that game.
Wow.
Yeah, that
What did you
fosters
spend most
creativity.
of your time in? Was it the visuals or the music or?
I would say probably most. I mean, like let's start by saying the fly swatting game was probably less than 5%. No shade to it. It was definitely fun, but
Still a good like 20 hours, you know.
yes,
Just a
40
I would
number on
say.
your wrist.
Oh my God, I had to go out and buy a USB mouse because it's cute that the Joy-Cons can be a mouse, but it's kind of like the Joy-Con mouse is to a real mouse as the single Joy-Con turned to the side is to a Pro controller.
Right.
Like, you just don't want to play a whole game that way. But I would say it was probably evenly split between visual stuff and music. I would often go in and just do like replace instruments in the pre-loaded songs that were in the game, or I had the Mario Paint strategy guide, which it wasn't really a strategy guide per se, but they would give you like huge murals you could make in Mario Paint, and they gave you every little stamp to make, like crochet, to just sit there crocheting stamp after stamp to make these beautiful big, like, and of course you look at them now and they look like one still from an NES game, but like at the time being able to do that yourself, I didn't have access to Photoshop, didn't really have access to a computer. It was a huge deal, and I did learn a little bit of, I probably composed a little bit of my own music, but it was more about arranging and trying to find tunes that would fit. It took me a while to realize, I'm looking for tunes that are in A minor or in C major because those are the only notes you can do.
I was disappointed by that. I was disappointed. I was trying to transcribe a piece, and then I realized I couldn't play F sharp.
You gotta change the cat, dog,
Yep,
car.
I keep trying to find things that I could do. I almost did somebody that I used to know because like it's so close. But like one of the notes in the, deet, 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 like that iconic thing in the song is one of the black keys, not one of the white keys. And I was like, curses. But at the same time, limitation is the thing that often sort of spawns the best art. And the ability to do anything makes it kind of, can create things that are less special. So while I do wish there was some ability to add sharps and flats, when you do pull something off that's cool in Mario Paint musically, it is kind of an achievement unto itself. And the stuff I've been sharing on Twitter and other socials that I've been making this past week, like, I'm proud of them. And people that actually play Mario Paint or have been starting recently to try it understand, that took some doing. Not just doing in like the committing to making it right now, but also in the fact that I've played it for so many years and the things it taught me, I have carried on through my life.
Yeah, it in and of itself, in a way, is its own instrument by utilizing its own sound font, and you learned how to play it instead of just replicating sounds on it.
Right.
Yeah. It reminds me of maybe novelty isn't the right word because I feel like that's a little bit diminutive, and I think there is a lot of value in doing stuff like this. But it reminds me when those like videos where people will play songs with only like toy instruments, for example, or I've seen it before where people will do art like visual digital art, but only on MS Paint, or like maybe even like the Windows 95 MS Paint, where there's just very few options for brushes or tools, and even then like the paint bucket, it's just very anachronistic. A lot of features that are now standard in things like Photoshop or even like GIMP or whatever are just not there. So there's kind of new challenges and new ways of doing things that are kind of unique to that style of art. And you see that with Mario Paint, and a lot of other stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten pretty okay at Photoshop over the years. I don't consider myself a great graphic designer, but just, again, one of those things. YouTubers, it behooves us to learn enough Photoshop to just be able to slap something together if we have to. But
Drop shadow.
Yeah, exactly. Give me a stroke and a color overlay and an outer glow. Great. Okay,
Done.
looks professional. But like I forgot just little things like the undo. I cannot believe they didn't just make the right click an undo.
That was driving me nuts. That
Oh,
was
man.
driving me nuts.
I think the first couple
Ay.
years of me doing anything, I was not aware that Control Z was an option. So I would open up the history tab. More so over, I think the first 1 or 2 years of me editing, I was not very computer savvy. I didn't really know what the difference between a PNG and a JPEG was. So every image I would need with a blank background, I would just get a JPEG with a white background, immediately put it in Photoshop, magic wand out the background, and then save it again as a different image. When I probably could have cut out like 2 different steps by just looking up that thing but PNG instead.
Oh man, if I could tell you the number of times somebody has just casually dashed off some shortcut or hotkey, and I go, that could have saved me a collective 5.5 months of my life. Just like what I could have not had to do if I'd known. You can batch export that thing that I had to export 38 of. Oh man, you know, that vibe. But that's how you learn.
I replaced my keyboard recently because the one I was using, the left side was starting to atrophy a little bit, so all the left keys. And it was only then that I realized how often I use muscle memory for Control Z, Control S, and how hard it is to go back to not using those things. It's like, oh, I have to do this archaically. I have to drag my mouse to the history tab to fix that.
Yeah. I think this is really, you know, honestly, this kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier with, you know, games that just the quality of life isn't there in a way that people didn't mind back then. And now it's rough. But at the same time, I have so much. I mean, nostalgia doesn't even, as a word, doesn't even begin to. It's not a big enough word to describe how I feel playing Mario Paint. Even though the undo dog thing is ridiculous, the fact that the right click doesn't do anything, but it could just be an undo. Maybe that would be a bad idea because you could accidentally do that. But like, that being said, when I play it, I feel like more than anything else I can think of, more than any movie or video game I've ever experienced, I can't think of anything else, and I mean this, anything else I've experienced in my memory that so feels, not that I feel reminded of my youth, but that I feel like I am somehow four-dimensionally communing with my younger self and am in that moment my older self and my younger self. I mean, that probably sounds corny and woo-woo, but it's like very hard for me to describe the kind of trippy, like the sense of being both my older and younger self at the same time while playing the game, because it hasn't changed.
Yes.
And so many parts of me that have changed exist outside of the stuff you do in that game. Mm-hmm. So much of my job is what you do in that game.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's truly spooky and cool, and I'm just very lucky that my girlfriend does not get annoyed by hearing the same 10 seconds of a piece of music playing over and over and over again, because among other things, you cannot skip to the part of the composer score that you want to just to review that part. You have to press play and go through the whole thing to see what that 2 notes you added sound like. But what can I say? You know, it's
dear B.
No, I absolutely know what you mean. I mean, I think we've sort of experienced not exactly the same thing for that big of a time gap, but I've been running into it recently, or at least like a little bit ago, that I was making a video about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and the cycle of like hype and speculation leading up to that game. And then I got to the year 2019 when I had just graduated and I like started making YouTube videos. And now I'm like 23, 24 working on the video, and I can re-edit the terrible footage I took when I was 17, 18 and recontextualize it because nobody was watching at the time, that I can have that finished product of what teenage me was hoping to come across, but just did not have the video editing acumen or filming or audio acumen to do so, that I can grab those reactions or those speculation points and show them to people on a much wider forum and platform and be like, hey, this is me when I was a kid. Don't go back and watch those actual videos though, because I promise that it is not nearly as good or polished as the way I'm presenting it. And
Yeah.
I had the pleasure or displeasure of starting as soon as I was a legal adult. I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait until that moment. But Switchy, you've had a lot more experience like making videos since you were young on the internet, right? Have you ever experienced anything
Yeah.
like that of being able to sort of
Yeah.
like baton pass to yourself?
No, absolutely, especially with the Club Penguin videos I've done. Where it's funny, I think, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of Brent, but what he was talking about with this kind of communion with his younger self, it was reminding me of when I've made videos about stuff that I've done as a kid, or videos I've made as a kid, because I played Club Penguin a lot as a kid. I also made videos about the game. So I'm telling this to Brent and people who don't know, I made a whole like 2-hour video about the history of Club Penguin's like seasonal events and stuff like that. And what that involved was doing a lot of research for one, but also playing, fan servers of the game. And it's funny when I do that, because despite the fact that, I'm 10, 15 years older, I find myself falling back into a lot of the same habits that I haven't done since I was, a lot younger. And it's kind of a weird reminder of, at some point, I feel like a part of me feels like my young self again, and a part of me still feels like myself. I remember one of my friends also went on like one of the servers, and we were just kind of playing the game together, and we were trying to talk through the very filtered chat where it's really hard to say, you can't type any numbers. And it was weird typing like with those limitations for the first time in years. And I saw myself communicating in a way I haven't communicated with people since like I was like 12.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this weird kind of mishmash where a part of me is kind of doing things that I haven't done in a long time, but I'm still me. And it's a weird feeling, but it's also a very pleasant feeling. I get the same thing whenever I play, like games that I played as a kid but haven't played in years. So, I remember playing Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, for example, as an adult. And then suddenly I'm getting all these reminders of when I was like 7. And I'm kind of, reading text that I haven't read since I was 7. And it kind of, I mean, not to the same extent, I think, at least with that specific example. But, you get reminded about what about you has actually changed and what is kind of the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think stuff like this is why games where you can level up and go back to the earlier parts that were harder, why that's so appealing to us. Because it's like there's something satisfying in life about feeling like you've gotten better at something, feeling like you've gotten more sophisticated, and then going back and experiencing something from that perspective and getting to see how far you've come, even if you still enjoy the old thing. Just like when you get to level 60 in a Final Fantasy game and you go back to like the first area in the game and like, you're just like getting them in one hit. I feel like it's so satisfying in games because it's so much harder to come by in real life. And even though playing an old game you love or doing something you loved when you were younger is not always a matter of feeling like, oh, I'm so much better now. But there's something about seeing the difference, really palpably feeling the difference in who you are since then, that it's just a very special thing.
Yeah, actually, that reminded me, because you brought up, the RPGs. I think one of my favorite, tropes or things in games in general. This is common in like Zelda and Metroid, where like towards the beginning of the game, you see something that's blocked off and you don't have the tools for it yet. And then way, way later, you get like the power up or the special kind of missile that lets you break this thing. So you go all the way back and you break it, and you either access new kind of dungeons or new challenges or just really cool power ups. I've always loved that kind of lock and key backtracking. and I think it's kind of for the same reason.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that will never die, that will never not work? The whole what's behind this area? Like I actually, as it happens, I've spent the majority of my adult life living in Astoria, Queens. Astoria, which is a large neighborhood in Queens, New York, and I have lived in different parts of it, and I now think of it as a Zelda map, where it's like you end up just being like, oh, I've lived in this neighborhood that's only maybe a 3-mile radius for, almost 20 years, but I've never been to this little alcove. Oh, what's behind this area? And, it's just, again, it's so, games like that, just elements like that, they never die, I think, because they mimic cool things about real life. They find a way to transform something that's cool about being a human being and make it into a game.
It's the nature of exploration, constantly wanting to see new things. Switchy, did you have a specific questions you wanted to ask?
Oh, this is more of a joke, but I was kind of curious. I think, well, I because we're having a nice conversation, there was something I was planning to ask in a more playful way, but I was kind of curious.
We've lulled you into a false sense
is there
of
a reason you never actually did a video for the Earthbound with Lyrics song?
Yeah, I think that in general, I rarely did videos for songs that came out on an album first.
Okay.
And I think it's mostly just because I like the jokes it's two things. I like the jokes to hit the audience for the first time along with the visual, because usually if I've made a music video in tandem with writing a song, they're helping each other. Like I might go, this one line of the lyric maybe isn't the best thing I've ever written, but I'm not going to go back and re-record it because this visual is so good, it sells it. Whereas, I also find that when I release a new video, if it's a song that has already come out, there will be a fair amount of, this isn't a new video. Like when I did Zelda Link to the Past with Lyrics. At that point, I think that Zelda Link to the Past had been out for some time. With Lyrics, I mean, on my third album, same album as Earthbound with Lyrics. So I think I learned from that if it's not new when the video comes out, probably not worth making into a video. And the third thing is somebody else edited it into a YouTube video that while it's, look, I wouldn't just use it as my own because I have a specific style. It wasn't terrible. So
yeah, I remember seeing that. That's how I found out about it as a kid.
Yeah, I hope people realize that's not me, the same way that I hope that they realize that the other people that are still doing quote with lyrics videos are not me. No shade to them, but we're not the same. It's kind of like, hey, it's cool. They're doing that, and somebody made an Earthbound with Lyrics video. So okay, cool. So yeah, those are my reasons, but it's a perfectly fair question.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Oh yeah, you can say.
I was just gonna say, real quick, that Link to the Past complaint is so asinine because the re-release of that video was a fully animated music video, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I can't imagine seeing a fully animated music video and be like, I've heard this before. It's like, yeah, but motherfucker, you have not seen it with your eyes.
It's I look at it both ways though. It's kind of like, I mean, we've talked a little bit about musical theater, and it's like, it's cool to get into an album before you see the show live, but I think that if you really get into an album of a musical before you ever see the show, it's likely to make the experience of seeing the show a lot less fun, because not only are you comparing it to what you've heard before, you're also comparing it to how it looked in your head.
Yes.
There will never be as good of a production of Seussical the Musical as what was in my head in high school listening to that, even though the show's kind of for kids, whatever. What can I say? It's full of bangers. I love it. Or Les Mis, it seems like you couldn't get much more luxurious than the $1 million productions of Les Mis that happen, but they're never going to look as good as what was in the head of a middle school kid that would these days be on musical theater TikTok making remixing somebody else's video of Les Mis music, etc., etc. So I think that's part of it too, is if I'm going to make a video, most of the time I'd like it to all be new for the viewer upon their first watch.
Okay, for sure. I'm now like having other questions that are kind of curious to me. Is there like a specific, I mean, asking if your favorite is one thing, but I'm kind of curious if there's a specific with lyrics video you did that you look back on as the most fondly, I guess, for your own development as a creator, as a musician, etc., or anything in between.
That's a question, you know? I mean, like, it's kind of sad that nothing ages perfectly, because there are videos, I mean, so, okay, I think that the period of spring 2014 to fall 2014 is probably my favorite, like, string of Brentalfloss videos, even though that was like almost 6 years after the beginning. But like, that was the era of Phoenix Wright, Donkey Kong Country, BioShock Infinite, Wii Shop Channel, Mario Sunshine, Bubble Bobble, Shadow of the Colossus. And even though they aren't all my favorite in also Shovel Knight. Even though they aren't all my favorite in retrospect, to me, in the same way that in Killer Instinct, you know, if you put the right combo in, it just keeps going. And like, only by putting the right combination, like the combination of videos there, to me, I look back on as some of my favorite. I really, really like a lot of what I did with Mario Sunshine, but also when I did my impression of Miyamoto, look, you know, 10 literal years ago, I looked at the concept of white people doing impressions of not white people a little differently. And I thought, hey, that's what he sounds like. I'm not, you know, dehumanizing him, but let us just say in 2025, I probably would have done something more like my German lab coat Nintendo employee, as opposed to my, you know, as opposed to what was basically a South Park takeoff in that part. It makes me sad because I otherwise love that song. I like the arrangement a lot. I like the, you know, just the overall vibe, the momentum of it. I think one that really is special to me, for whatever reason, isn't actually with lyrics per se. It's the BioShock song, which was an original song. But like, something about it just clicked. I wrote it very fast, which, man, I'll tell you, there are some songs in the Brentalfloss repertoire that did not come fast. But I pretty much wrote a very solid draft of the BioShock song, probably kept 90% of what was in it in about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it just came out. And sometimes the stuff that really is good just, you know, comes out easy, sometimes not. But, you know, my dad actually liked that song. Something about this, and he never ever played BioShock, didn't know anything about it. Something about that song just transcends the game even. And I think the same thing about the song Zidane to Vivi, which is a song I did about Vivi from Final Fantasy IX, but it's in a very like Ben Folds 5 style. And it's about a sort of, you know, simplistic, well-meaning character trying to cheer up someone going through some really serious shit. But like, little did I know that for the next, you know, rest of my life, people would come up and tell me that it actually, even though I thought of it as maybe an oversimplistic philosophy, from a character that would just kind of be like, hey, cheer up, buddy. Like, it actually did that to human beings. And it was mostly original. It borrowed the VV motif, kind of, from Final Fantasy IX. But so those are some special ones to me. But like, really, they're all special. I would categorize them more about how much I don't like them. If that makes sense. Like,
right.
Like, I think, you know, Thief with lyrics, I think actually has a lot of great rhymes. I wish I had gotten an actual rapper to perform it. That one is kind of there's some of the like weird, like doing the fake out of like Robo's theme from Chrono Trigger, but actually it's a Rick roll, but it's a Robo roll because Robo's theme sounds like the Rick roll song. There's like some stuff in there that's like, it's okay, like, you know, but generally speaking, there's something about all of them that I a little bit love and a little bit cringe at. And just like BoJack Horseman, every now and then, if I'm by myself, maybe a little drunk, maybe a little other substances, just at home on a Friday night, nothing to do, sometimes I'll go back through the songs and kind of get to enjoy them almost as if I didn't write them. And yet, it almost like a fan, because it was so long ago that now I'm experiencing them having forgotten most of the little details of what it was to make them and just getting to enjoy them as music. It's a real crazy kind of gift of getting older, is like you forget enough little things about what you made that you can finally experience them as almost like you're just the listener and not the creator.
Yeah. There are a number of things that you could look at and be like, oh, I would have done this differently or done this differently. But occasionally people will quote me to me and I'll forget that I said it. And I'll be like, that's really funny. And they're like, you said that. I'm like, oh, man, I'm funny. I forgot I said that.
Oh my God, dude. So the use your words games are like a fill in the blank kind of like comedy game. And we have to write thousands of built-in answers because the whole idea is that you don't have to make up your own answer if you don't want to. You can like use one of ours. And so we have to make mathematically like at least 7 answers for all 600 prompts. That math starts to stack up. But use your words too, for various reasons, took like just, I think something like 7 years to complete from the beginning of it. And so whenever I play test it, I wrote most of the built-in answers. You don't know how many times I would laugh my drunk ass off at an answer and go, man, that just, whoever wrote that so gets me. And then find out that it was the freaking built-in answer. Also, you lose points for voting for the built-in answer. So it was like, not only do you not remember it, Grandpa, but you think you're so damn funny and you lose points, you dork. But yeah, what can I say? It's kind of a special feeling.
Yeah, once you say so much, especially for elongated periods of time like we do for like multi-hour long videos or podcasts, that it's impossible to remember everything. So occasionally I'll go back to something from a couple years back and be like, you know what, I did like this bit. Even if I'm doing research for a specific time period, I'm like, oh God, I'm dreading listening to this. And then I do, is like, you know what, that's a good bit. I wish I could just clip this like 13-second bit and get rid of the rest of the everything about it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of, you know, I think that the vast super majority of people feel that way. And the ones who don't peak way too early.
Yes.
The people that go, oh man, the best stuff I ever did was before I hit puberty. Like, there's people out there. I was a child actor and like, you know, small time child actor, but I knew bigger deal child actors. And it's like a very strange thing to be like, the effect I had on the world was mostly done before my voice changed. You know, It's good to look back and cringe. It's good to look back and think about how you would have done things differently, even though there is a strange pain to it that is just, you know, kind of one of the prices of making art, particularly art that anybody knows about.
Mm-hmm. Earlier we talked about legacy sequels, and especially when it's like a kid show or the show is about kids or a movie, it is always a little bit sad of seeing that the actors sort of just have to do the same thing. You know, no smoke to the people who were in like iCarly, because I grew up with that show. But whenever I see like, oh, iCarly's coming back, or oh, we're doing a Hannah Montana reboot, or anything from the era of shows I grew up in, it's like, oh, we're all coming back and we're doing this thing again that we did when we were like 15, 16. It does get you a little sad. It's like, oh, that I know, I understand what this means. It means that nobody else has really gone on to do anything else. Like when they did, I think, a High School Musical, not a reboot, but like, oh, we're all gonna get back together and watch it, and everyone except Zac Efron was there. It's like, oh gee, I wonder why. So like he's got other stuff going on right now.
Also, he didn't even sing the Troy stuff.
He's just a really hot guy.
I didn't know this till like a year or two ago. I always assumed he sang it, but he didn't even sing Troy in the first movie.
No.
But what can you say? He's a really hot guy. I mean, I understand.
He was sold on the back
begrudge him. Yeah, for sure.
But goddamn, do they make him dance?
True.
Before we transition into a final question, Switchy, do you have anything else you'd like to cover?
Oh wait, I was kind of sent to. Oh, I actually wanted to ask you something, Andrew.
Ooh.
What was the first Brentalfloss video you saw?
Oh God. It probably was. I don't remember if that was the one that I'm like, oh, this one's either I was watching already and then one of them was like everywhere, or I got into it because it was everywhere, and I'm pretty sure it was Dr. Mario. Which
Same.
okay, so Dr. Mario hooked us. And then I was like, oh man, Castlevania, Mega Man. I distinctly remember I think it was the Castlevania one, or maybe one of the Mega Man ones. I think it was Castlevania. I would always have my headphones in, and I would have it like plugged into like an iPod Nano or one of the ones that clips on it, and I always had headphones in, or earbuds rather, and they would like do a number on my ears, or I would like trip and it would like yank on my ears or whatever, because I'm like, I don't want my parents to know what I'm listening to. And then one time I was like home alone by myself, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. And I unplugged my headphones, and that's the first time I like listened to the Castlevania song out loud and had it like reverberate through a room, because I'm like, if they know what I'm listening to, I'm gonna get in trouble and they're gonna take YouTube away from me again.
Wow.
No Castlevania in this house.
Yeah. Yeah, we're a Metroid family. No son of mine's gonna be listening to Castlevania. Yeah, I mean, it was all
That's
harmless.
a great story.
I think there's a level of leeway you give to. I think there is an issue now of a lot of children sort of just like being let go in the internet, like, oh, you know, just sit in front of the screen or hand you an iPad and do whatever. But I do allow a certain amount of leeway, just because it was how I brought up, or how I was brought up, that there's always going to be a level of kids doing things they shouldn't, whether it be like sneaking into rated R movies or like watching YouTube videos. And I believe in a certain amount of protection for kids, but also like, that's harmless. I wasn't being like indoctrinated or anything. It could have been way worse.
Yeah, I mean, I tried never to do anything that was like vile. Like I experimented here and there with content that like went into different places and explored different things. But generally, it's like, you know, when I was growing up, I was listening to Adam Sandler albums. I don't know if you remember the Jerky Boys, but they were like foul-mouthed prank calls that they actually released CDs of the prank calls. And Beavis and Butthead, stuff that like I was a little bit young to experience. But the thing is, when you're like, you know, a tween or even like a pre-tween, your friends are saying gross stuff that they don't understand. People are singing dumb songs. They don't understand the jokes. They're spreading around rumors about how things work. Like, everybody's finding out and hearing things they're not quite old enough to fully understand, that like their parents probably don't want them to know. But they got to hear that stuff somewhere. And I think with the work I did, even though, you know, I cringe at some of the stuff that I think is more just like problematic, like kind of shitty, lazy jokes.
Yeah.
That I just go, let us just say that we're kind of edgy at the time and are now well beyond edgy and kind of cringe.
Yes.
Like, that's the stuff that I wish I hadn't done, but like the bad words and like occasional like innuendo and stuff, like, I don't know. I think that, I mean, I want to say every boy growing up, but truly it's every kid growing up is going to have a period where they're getting into stuff like that. And if I got to be that for some children, what can I say? I think it wasn't the worst. They could have done much worse in 2009 to 2000 and now.
And at the very least, the internet was transfixed on one room, the computer room. I wasn't constantly at my fingertips being able to have Wi-Fi everywhere. Granted, when I had like an iPod Touch, I think, I only had internet connection when I was at my mom's house, like at my house. So I would download, there was a lot of stuff that was just allowed on iTunes like really early on. Like people were just uploading YouTube videos there. I don't know how it worked for that. There were a ton of free ones. But yeah, I definitely downloaded a lot of songs. And I'm like, oh, I'll listen to them on the bus drive. And it's interesting you bring up that that one Final Fantasy one that really stuck with people, and also earlier bringing up how it looks can never be as good as what you pictured in your head. As I would just like either close my eyes or look out the window and listen to that one and like picture an entire musical number like on a stage or something. Meanwhile, the video is just like in-game footage or cutscenes, like full motion video. So I had an entire production running in my head at the time, I suppose.
Isn't that crazy? Like, just, I wonder if one day there will be some way to transmit that kind of information. Like, obviously, most people's imaginations can't fully, you know, imagine the entirety of that at once. In fact, I recently met somebody with a brain condition where she can't visualize things in her brain. She's also a playwright, which makes things doubly crazy. But it's like, if you could transfer something of what you see in your head, that would just be so crazy. Like, because like, it would be such a transformation of what the intention was there for me, but it could also teach me something about it. I don't know. I think, technology's going super fast in ways that are kind of scary, but sometimes also it's like the other day I was at a show. My girlfriend's currently in a production of Mary Poppins at like a regional theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting next to these parents who were seeing their college age kid who was in the ensemble of the show, but also on their phone was an app they were using to watch their kid's baseball game in a little league tournament. And it was like playing out like a little video game on the screen. It was showing who was running to where and what was happening. And they could even pay more to like get an actual play-by-play. And I went, okay, the future's scary and terrible and everything's going to hell, but that's pretty cool. Pretty cool that they can like at intermission, check in on their kid's baseball game that they're missing.
Sure.
And text them, hey, good job with that double play.
At the end of the day, while we're waiting for technology to like catch up with our thoughts and how we can somehow get our ideas to video or to paper, that idea for incredibly artistically gifted people, or just for anyone really. I mean, I continually draw, even though I'm not very good at it, just because drawing is expressing yourself. That has existed. And especially when I was becoming a theater kid in like 2015, the reason I got into so many of these shows is because people were making animatics of these songs, just grabbing a random song from the playlist and then drawing out how it would look in little sketches. And I think that's beautiful, being a way to express like what you picture in your head, and then people in the comments would be like, this is exactly what I was picturing for this song.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a really, that's definitely one of the trends that I have enjoyed. I keep on like throwing out things I'm working on that aren't Brentalfloss, but as you may know, I wrote a Star Trek parody musical that's kind of like doing the Brentalfloss treatment to Star Trek, called Khan the Musical, and it played off Broadway. And it's culty, and I'm trying to get the word out. It's very slow to get the word out about a musical if there's not a video or if it's not like on Broadway. But people are starting to make animatics, even if it's just of these short little moments. And to me, after developing this show for 10 years, it's one of the most magical experiences. Because even though, yes, I have seen it produced live, and that's obviously been great, something about that thing I took for granted when I was really in the Brentalfloss days of people making fan art and stuff. The first piece of fan art you get is amazing and life-changing, and the 10th one you get just can never be as big of a deal. And if you are as lucky as me to get more than that, it's diminishing returns, and you almost feel bad that you can't celebrate and cherish every single moment of somebody being a fan. But for that star to have kind of faded, and for me to become a little bit more of a Smash trophy as opposed to a Smash playable character in the YouTube world, to see someone doing an animatic of this new thing that I've worked on chiefly as an adult, and even a middle-aged adult. It's just really special. But also seeing people's animatics, to your point, that when they haven't seen the live show, it's like a production of the show I haven't seen that I'd like to see. It's freaking wild.
Mm-hmm. I don't know
That's
if
a fun
you've
way of putting it. I like
heard,
that.
I'm sure there is I think it was a collaborative like TikTok project called Epic the Musical. And there is no live production of that show. It was just a bunch of songs they put together over the pandemic. And they commissioned people, and that sort of like a Disney animated film only exists within animatics. Like you can look up the playlist and see all those. And I don't love the entirety of it. There's a lot of songs that are very catchy, but that is a very like being able to engage with your audience and understanding how musical or we keep calling them theater kids, but like musical theater fans on the internet engage with the product in the modern age, and being able to build off of that. And I feel like of all the, I want to say niche, but of all of the pieces of art that I am interested in, whether it be movies or TV or video games, it does seem like musical theater has been the hardest barrier of entry, not for just like normal people being like musicals because they've been conditioned to think so, but just like if you can't go to a show in New York, sometimes all you have is that playlist of songs. Like all you can do is the cast album. So it's interesting to see so many people reach out, especially to their audiences like you do, and be able to make that a more versatile experience for people.
Yeah. I mean, it's, for every bad, scary thing about the way the internet has changed, there is something that there are things that are good that I try not to take for granted. Ways you can communicate, ways you can, the speed at which you can do stuff. I mean, the speed at which, like, recently, I'm gonna butcher what happened, but Demon Tomato Dave, who was my counterpart in the Super Mario Land and also the Ocarina of Time with lyrics videos, who's a good friend of mine and just like the nicest, greatest dude. He made some joke about a car. I don't remember what the joke was, but I really wanted to make a reference to this like obscure Disney movie called the Gnome Mobile, where like there's just this car that ends up being full of gnomes. And so like I wanted to respond to him, my problem is my car's just got all these freaking gnomes in it. And I went, wait a minute. I went to YouTube. I found the video of the song The Gnome Mobile from that movie. I quickly ripped the video, trimmed it to the exact amount of time I wanted where they're singing The Gnome Mobile and The Gnome Mobile, and I popped it in a Twitter reply to him or a Blue Sky reply or whatever. And within like 5 minutes, I was able to like have a little bit with him that came with multimedia that would have been like, you know what I mean? Like it just was like, I thought in that moment, this is a special thing we can do despite all the terrible things.
Yeah.
And I feel like animatics and the list really goes on of all the ways in which people can engage with stuff they care about or just communicate with friends. I don't know. It's a dark new world and a bright new world at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Without the internet, I can't imagine anyone would believe that movie exists. You're blowing my mind right now. I've never heard of the Gnome Mobile in my life.
1967.
They gotta remake that.
I think that it actually had the two kids from Mary Poppins, but like they're a little older and less cute. They were trying to like wring the kitchen sponge of the two Mary Poppins
It's
kids.
like a return to Oz. Like, oh man, if you guys love Mary Poppins, you're gonna love this movie. That has nothing to do with that movie.
Right. But were they in? Wait a minute. Were those two kids in Bedknobs and Broomsticks too?
Oh,
Maybe not.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Okay. That was the moment I forgot. Y'all are a little bit. Maybe you've seen those things, but that's a little bit like large white plastic VHS Disney movie generation than people that grew up when you did. So I can see if you're not really intimately familiar with Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I can understand why. But actually, fun fact: Bedknobs and Broomsticks, most of the songs in that. It was written by the same writing team as Mary Poppins. Most of the songs in Bedknobs and Broomsticks were cut from the much longer original draft of the Mary Poppins movie. They just had so much good shit. They were like, instead of writing new songs for this, we could just take all that stuff we didn't use for Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Anyway, those guys were geniuses.
Backwards, trying to connect the songs. I was like, okay, how do we tie this plot together?
Yeah, well, and I think Bedknobs was basically trying to capitalize on the Mary Poppins thing because it was such a similar, like, there's kind of a witchy, magical woman who oversees these children, and they go on this kind of picaresque adventure from this thing to that thing, and there's fun songs. Like, it's kind of following on the heels of that. The Gnome Mobile was not doing that, but they tried to borrow the kids, I guess, to get more people to come out.
Yeah, to get gnomes in the car, of course.
That's right.
Right. You remake the movie nowadays, think of how many gnomes you could fit in that car. The future is now.
Honestly, the gimmick of it was that they had a car big enough. They had a model of the cab of this car so big that they could have live action adult people playing the gnomes and then go back and forth between them looking really little with green screen or blue screen or whatever chroma key primitive version they had back then, but also like when you saw them in the car, it was this giant like ballroom-sized car that they were in because they're supposed to be gnomes. Anyway, I truly have become grandpa telling stories that may or may not even be true.
No,
And there was a car full of gnomes.
Yeah, all right. Put him back on the. He's talking about the gnome mobile again.
You have me.
But I'm gonna complain about film again. I'm gonna get that like if the biggest studio film made this year would CG something like that. Is that so much so that like it's amazing that a movie that most people forgot that probably didn't do super well from that era, they're like, no, let's build a huge car. Like it'd be hard to swing that for even the most lucrative film nowadays. I love physical sets and practical effects.
Yeah, we may never return to those days, although I could imagine there being like a trend to do that. But it's just like I don't think that it would have to be auteurs. It would have to be your Tarantinos and your Scorsese's and the people, or even your Zack Snyder's that go, no, the way this will look if real light is hitting it is worth making the set. And the expense of VFX, it sometimes feels almost like, is it that much cheaper?
Yeah.
But like, and of course now they have, I don't remember what you call it, but those giant, I think it's LED or LCD, those giant backgrounds that are really just
volume.
sort of like volume. Yeah.
Yes.
Like essentially giant monitor that's just going to make a location. Honestly, that's pretty cool. But there's something that will never be the same as seeing light hit something that is real, seeing real light hit a real thing and bounce back into the camera. I think practical effects, I'm sure that y'all have heard all these arguments, but,
No, I feel it.
Yeah.
It's interesting how we've accidentally reinvented matte paintings. We've sort of gone back to that idea.
Yeah, but you know what? Nothing has ever looked better than an SD matte painting.
Oh,
my Nothing.
God, yeah. This is painted,
and when you watch,
painted.
Yeah, and when you watch like HD-izations of matte painting backgrounds, you're like, okay, I can see how this would have looked good back then. But matte paintings on VHS, truly, that is HD. My girlfriend and I are going back and watching the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episodes, watching on the DVD, which is like they never made a Blu-ray, but at her family's got like a beach house they never use in Florida, and they had this little 12-inch CRT TV with only coaxial in. So like I bought a converter to convert the DVD signal to coax, and we watched Deep Space Nine on a 12-inch CRT. And like, I don't know how to communicate to the younger generation. I think y'all are just old enough to appreciate this, but I think like a crusty iPad kid of nowadays wouldn't understand. But it's like something like that on a CRT monitor is its own kind of HD. It blended together in a way that, you know what I'm saying? It's just
you're preaching to the choir here, man. I got a CRT at the end of my bed that you just brought up the converter. I have an HDMI to AV converter, and I plugged a Roku stick into the CRT TV. And because of that, whatever apps you load up just like formatted into 4:3, like in that square box. So that's how I watch most of the old shows or DVDs I have. Especially like something like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer Blu-ray, that they're like, let's put it in widescreen. And by doing that, they either crop the picture abysmally, or they change the lighting, or they use a wider, like the original shot from it that just has like boom mics and lighting in the shot. It's like, it was not meant to be watched like this. But no, from an aesthetic standpoint and just like recapturing whether I watch tapes or DVDs or old or retro games, I love formatting those on the CRT. I think that's like the way they should be consumed.
Yeah, to say nothing of the fact that I can't believe Nintendo continues to release pixel perfect versions of all their old games, because, when I play, I am a Mac user, not a Windows guy, and I use OpenEMU or OpenEMU. It's a very good emulator suite for when I can't get a game or I just don't want to buy the old system.
Right.
but they have all of these. I can't think of the name of it, but it's basically a filter.
Post-processing effects, I think.
Exactly. In that particular software, they have a name for them, but they are exactly that, like a filter that you can put through. And they have a few that like have this. They not only make it look like the screen is very slightly bulbed out, like the roundness of a screen. They have it look like it's CRT lines and then blending itself with itself and then glowing. And you sit there and go, man, the graphics were, I mean, this is so cliche to say at this point, but it's like the graphics were not made to look the way they look in HD. It's kind of like if you know, when you look at like the impressionist or the pointillistic paintings, like Sunday on the Island of La Grande Jatte, where it's like, you're not meant to walk up and see all of the individual strokes, the individual beep, boop, boop, beep, beep, boop, boops. You're supposed to step back from it and see it blend. And when I play games that are emulated that way, it's like I remember, oh shit, this actually looked in its way really good and could capture the imagination of someone who could imagine what that would look like in HD. It's a hard concept to describe nowadays.
Right.
But it's like sometimes something leaving just a little bit of detail to the imagination lets you imagine what that would look like while you're looking at it. Crazy.
And it's not even they were like, oh no, I was just gonna say, it's not even that we're building it for CRTs. Like that's all they had at the time. So when they're looking at it, it's like, oh, this looks good.
Exactly.
Well, that kind of like set me off into like several thoughts. One of them is that what's so interesting is that I never grew up playing, I guess 8-bit and 16-bit games on, like CRT TVs. So I always knew them as pixels. And it's funny because I think that's why there still is like a large faction of people who prefer playing the pixel perfect mode or emulation style, because I'm kind of one of them. And I think it's because that's what I always was first that was what I was first introduced to these games playing, and how I first got into them. And I kind of liked the geometric sense of the pixels, but that's not how they were literally meant to be seen. That's not how anyone saw it when they were first coming out. And it's just kind of fun to think about that. And also to the imagination point, I think that's why, for example, I mean, we always shit on this series basically. Like the newer Pokemon games, they don't scratch the same visual itch for me as the older ones that kind of incorporated both 2D and 3D art. That's more Gen 4 and Gen 5. And I think it's for that very reason, when there's a level of abstraction, you can kind of fill in the blanks that the game withholds from you with your own imagination, as opposed to kind of trying to animate everything in 3D if you can, but not obviously not really doing it all. And kind of, I don't know, it ends up not feeling as magical, I think, at least for me, in the really new 3D model Pokemon games, among other issues. Just kind of not very good visual direction in general. But
a frame rate of 3.
Yeah.
I played Scarlet Violet and I actually enjoyed it, but I was at times just shocked. I'm not even one of these people that gets upset about, oh, it chugs down to 30 frames per second. Yeah, fine, dude. That's fine. The NES, when there were 5 sprites on the screen, started looking like it was having a stroke. But that game, though, I was just shocked that a AAA Pokemon game. I mean, this is nothing new, right? But it was just truly what am I looking at?
It just raises a lot of questions.
Insanity. Yeah, and as a dev, I see now that, I mean, I could just about put money on the fact that they just didn't have time for optimization.
Yeah, nobody missed it. Whoever released it saw what was happening. There's nowhere they're like, oh, how could we have foreseen this happening?
So you go to Junichi Masuda and you tell him hey, the performance isn't that good, and he's like, wait, really?
He's never played the game.
I think we're on the same page.
I just imagine this very late night with these exhausted people on the optimization team, and they're just sitting there chewing their nails, sitting around a boardroom table, and one of them goes, wait a minute. What if we just don't fix it? What if we just make them play it like this? And they all go, oh, holy shit, you're right. What if we just, I don't know, pretend that's the style?
Yeah.
Just don't mention it. Maybe they won't notice. I don't know. It
maybe
just seemed
nobody
like a
will
very
say anything.
Yeah, like very late at night, like desperate, we just need sleep, please let us just sleep kind of decision.
From my understanding, they had there was like a leaked build for it a while back that was like, oh, initially the textures were a lot more detailed, and then like very last minute they're like, all right, we got to switch this so it actually like runs on the Switch, because as we said, like back then when they're making games, they're looking at a CRT, so they know what it looks like, whereas now you development companies, sure, they have dev kits, but they're making a game on the computer and then they're like, okay, now we need it to run on the Switch, so let's see what we can do to make that happen.
Oh
And
my God, absolutely. Yes. Did I cut you off? Sorry.
no, I was just saying when they released the upgraded version for the Switch 2, like it's in 60 frames now, but it's sort of like you were saying, like seeing those older movies or games now on like Blu-ray, DVD, like high def, like seeing it look more clear only accentuates like how basic the textures are. And it's weird that they didn't go back and like add back those more detailed textures that they couldn't run before. It just really, it's polishing something that doesn't need to be.
Yeah, it's interesting how the cultural, like sort of the collective eye changes as we go through the history of media. Like I know that when I was growing up, black and white movies just meant old, and they seemed somehow more boring. And even like my one of my first girlfriends, when we would watch black and white movies, she would fall asleep so much more often during a black and white movie. She'd be like, "Oh, is it in black and white?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, but I mean, it's Casablanca." But then like,
No, I was just thinking Casablanca. I fucking love that movie.
yeah, so slowly I realized that like, old video games look to some people the way that black and white movies looked to us. I remember seeing a kid, maybe it was like one of my nieces or nephews, like somebody wanted to like watch an old Disney movie, but it was 2D. And this child was brought up in the post, Toy Story, post DreamWorks world. Maybe it was Princess and the Frog, now that I think about it, which was like one of the last, maybe the last.
The last
Disney.
Such
Disney
a good
princess
movie, though.
Yeah, and so the thing is, but the kid was like, "Why is it old?" Same deal with Cuphead. I still can't believe that my like non-blood nephew asked why Cuphead looked so crappy, but it's like I understand what he meant. And so it's like, and what's crazy is like, even though we had the technology to make Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars prequels, somehow YouTube was this entire generation, this entire revolution of media that today looks like ass and looks to people, even Vine looks to your average crusty iPad kid today the way black and white movies looked to me growing up. The eye just changes.
Yes.
And it's a crazy thing to move forward through life and to see how not only do the eyes of people younger than you change, but you see things through their eyes too. The way you see things from your youth changes. It's a very, I mean, I guess every generation goes through it in some way or another, but it's a crazy thing of life.
I've gotten to the point, I mean, earlier you talked about videos that you really want to make and that passion really bleeding through. And I had a lot of fun with it, but there's this series I do at least once a year where I talk about this very specific cartoon I grew up with. And those are the ones that always break like a million. Like a couple years ago, it was like 5 mil, and then it keeps like at least one video a year breaks a mil, and it's normally that series. So I've kind of resolved to be like, okay, well, if I'm going to make these, not that I have to, but if I intend to make these every year and people are going to watch them regardless, I'm going to use them as an excuse to be a little bold when it comes to the creative direction of it. And the one I did recently was about YouTube videos in the late 2000s. So for that video, I purposefully edited and exported the video in 360p and then casted it to an old monitor and then pointed a modern camera at that old monitor. And I was so worried, like, I'm betting a lot on this. I'm making this video purposefully look worse for my own, like, selfish gratification of, like, your film student friend being like, oh, it should be in black and white. Like, I thought people were going to be way more mad about it. But seemingly nobody either noticed or bothered to say anything about it. And I'm really glad that one's been received really well.
Well, hopefully they got what you were going for. Like, one of my favorite in terms of direction, one of my favorite TV shows ever is Documentary Now, which was not really all that well known, but it was Bill Hader and Seth Meyers and Fred Armisen making this short series where each episode is like a parody of a type of documentary, or in some cases, a parody of a famous documentary, but they would always shoot it using the same technology that the original thing was shot on. If it was 8mm film, they would shoot it on 8mm film. Then they would transfer that to the 4K required to put it on TV. But it looked so good. And it's just like, I hate in movies where it's like a retro movie and they're all watching a TV clip in the movie. And the TV clip is obviously 21st century digital film with these crappy little scan lines that don't look real at all, when it's like, this would look so much cooler if you shot this and it looked, I mean, I think WandaVision did this to some extent.
Sure.
Not perfectly, but it was bold in that way. But anyway, I love stuff like that just like takes the risk of some people going, why does it look old? It's like, because it's supposed to, because this is how it looks. Yeah.
Yeah, most films are like, okay, we'll get this footage and then we'll turn the noise up a little bit. So that way that makes it, now it's from the 80s. It's immersive.
Right.
But I mean, there's a lot we could build off that. If we're talking about stuff that came in the last week, like between podcasts, there's that huge so-called Wizard of Oz restoration that's playing in the Vegas sphere that just like, I don't know if it's using AI or if they're just using CG. It's like, oh, making the screen wider and the background that was out of focus, now we've brushed it up and it looks in focus, and it's just an incredible abysmal like piss on the movie to make it look, I don't know, 60 frames, I suppose, but that's an entire conversation for another time. I feel like we've snowballed a lot here. We had a lot more to talk about. You've been a fantastic guest, Brent.
Well, thanks. What y'all have experienced is the blessing and the curse, but certainly the incurable thing about me, which is conversations with me. If I'm given a little bit of leash to go out a little bit of rope, I'll say. I kind of open every drawer in the kitchen and pull something out, but like never put something back. Like we just kind of touch on everything, and suddenly by the end of it, there's this big mess of things that aren't where they need to go, and loose ends, not tied up. But yeah, like it's been a great conversation. I've loved having it.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you for legally adopting both of us and making us the sons of Brentalfloss. Legally.
Yes, now you're going to have to go and work in the field for Dad. Sorry.
We have to earn our Floss lineage. And then I'll put
That's
it in
right.
bio. But
That's
we
right.
have a question that we always catch our guests off course with, and we ask all of our guests, so we put it on that big banner for speculation later down the line. If there were to be a new Super Smash Brothers game, potentially for the Nintendo Switch too, if there is one character throughout all of video games that you could pick to be in this next Smash Bros. Game, who would it be? And I must reiterate, this is a video game character. We had a guest previously who picked Captain N, and it must remain on the board because that's the rule, but if you can have anyone, like sponsor a character.
Okay, so I have the kind of personality where if I really, really wanted to definitively give you an answer, I would have to go and like make a spreadsheet. But one that came to mind that I think would be really funny is Rabid Peach from the Mario plus Rabid series. If you haven't seen it, it looks like a Rayman Rabid, except she's got a pink dress and a peach wig on, and
a gun.
And a gun, and is constantly checking her phone, and is clearly like a girly girl who loves to capture everything for the gram. I think that would be hilarious to have Rabid Peach.
That's legitimately probably one of our most realistic picks someone has backed so far. Like, I definitely seeing that happen. I feel like Ubisoft's been connected to Nintendo for a while, and they haven't had anyone in there.
I mean, Rayman's probably more deserving from a legacy and sort of notability perspective.
Yes.
But Rabid Peach would be, I think, a lot more fun. Poor Rayman. Some of his games are great, but as a mascot platformer character, he's all right. He kind of just yells and doesn't have arms. I don't know.
He's been cannibalized by his own minions, and now the Rabbids are sort of the face of that series.
Yeah.
Well, Switchy, do you have any last final statements or questions to quickly go over before we wrap this up?
I guess I'll just tell Brent. It's kind of hard to tell people this straight up, but I consider you a really foundational YouTuber in general and also a personal inspiration. So it was really great having you on the show.
Hey, thanks. It's really nice to hear that. I've had a great time.
And I consider you my dad.
Again, my children are gonna have to make money for the family, so just keep that in mind.
It's okay. It'll be one of those multi-channel network things where we're under the Machinima Brentalfloss brand, where 70% of our YouTube money goes to
Machinima. I have not thought about that. We could go on, but we
Oh,
won't.
for sure.
Anyway,
We'll do this again sometime. But let me
perhaps
tell you,
indeed.
that earlier you talked about gimmick games or viral games and being pitched to you. Oh, one final thing. This is money on the table. I think this is $1 million idea. Next, with lyrics, think about this. Baldi's Basics with lyrics.
Baldi's Basics. That sounds like my entire list of ex-girlfriends. I don't know what Baldi's Basics is.
Well, perfect. That's the idea. That's gonna really shoot us into the stratosphere. We're getting in on the ground level of this business deal. But obviously, I was gonna ask you if you could plug your channel. I'm sure most people know. Do you know where people can use your words, where people can access it, and upcoming?
Yeah, let me just do a quick rundown. So my channel on YouTube is Brentalfloss. You've heard a lot about it today. The two things that I really want people to know about. So you've got a path. This is choose your own adventure. You've either got Star Trek musical or Jackbox-like comedy game. You can do both, but I want you to walk away remembering one thing. Use Your Words has been out for years. It's great. It's on all the consoles and Steam for PC and Mac. Use Your Words 2 is out on Steam. They're really fun, kind of fill-in-the-blank comedy games. The Use Your Words 2 is on Steam. It's about to be on consoles. You can't wishlist it yet, but just make a note. More information at useyourwords.lol. Now, Con the Musical is it's a comedy parody version of The Wrath of Khan. It's a legal parody. We have a 10-track mini album out right now. We're going to have a full album of the entire score out, hopefully by October. Information about that is at conthemusical.com. Again, that is KHAN, themusical.com. Go check out one or both of those products for me, please, and thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful plug. Thank you for being on the show. And now I'm going to transition to the stream outro and hang up.
All right.
It's the easiest way to clean break
Succinctly
this.
put.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.